Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe. If you dare.
Lead the pack if scared of snakes. You'll disturb them, but the person behind you is more likely to get bitten. Hey everybody, welcome to ANECDOSED. People ask Reddit. People of Reddit, what is a surprisingly unknown survival fact that everyone should know?
Number 1.
Commenter. This is a tip for surviving with mental health issues. I often ignore my own advice, but when I remember to do it, it usually helps. When you're feeling super depressed, ask yourself these questions. Am I thirsty? Am I hungry? Am I tired and in need of sleep? Have I showered today? Have I gotten up and walked around in a while? Have I gotten out of bed and dressed? I find that a surprising number of times something's on that list needs attending to. And once done, I often feel better. There's no cure for depression. There's just learning to manage and live with it. Person B is a complementary step, and this is only worthwhile if aforementioned primary steps have been attended to, but you still feel desperately low. I suggest adding a question that may give some space ahead of you, not just around you. For example, have I painted a few strokes? Have I played some guitar? Doesn't matter if you can play the guitar. Have I, insert something that you're fond of, or at least pleased by doing to some small degree. If you're having difficulties finding anything at all that you like doing, if you feel there's nothing you'll ever be able to say that you like doing, then pick something that you don't entirely dislike, and just stick to it. And keep doing so. From this, there can be two possible outcomes. Either you get fed up with the chosen activity and start to think it's pointless, in which you pick something else to do and stick to that new activity instead, for a while. Up until you hit the next point of reflection where you'll get to make up your mind. Or, the other possible outcome, you actually feel satisfied doing the activity, in which you simply keep doing it. At this point, if you're up for it, you may even try to let yourself explore it further, whatever it is you decided to do. Exploring what you're currently doing is the most luxurious state of mind and, granted, not the most naturally occurring when you're in a depression. However, the best way to reach that state of exploration is to add more of itself, that is, exploring more. Ask a simple question. What happens if I do this, instead of that? I think, finding a worthwhile activity question that differs from those basic questions mentioned before, one that may even seem unimportant from the outlook of a depressed person, plays an important role in fighting depression. Yes, the questions that deal with nutrition, sleep and basic habits are the most immediate questions to keep asking yourself. They serve the purpose of getting you more on track and help sustain your function and as a human being. But this other step or question, let's call it the semi-hobby step, however cliché it may seem, can be quite important for another crucial part of life, acquiring a sense of meaning. Not to say the former advice also partake in achieving this goal. Begin by trying to perceive at least 1 single second as meaningful when you exercise your chosen non-habitually focused, semi-hobby activity. What does the activity mean to you? Does that meaning carry any value for you? Does it make you think of something else for a second? If yes, that's the value, if nothing else. Chop things up in small segment routines. Take care of physical needs first. Then, if possible, do something arbitrary but likable, or at least not dislikable. And lastly, if you've made it all the way here, try to sense if there's any meaning or at least if there's any reason for you to continue doing this the next time as well. And if not, see if you could accept picking another activity. I was going to say creative activity, but I won't, because creativity derives from a will to do something, a drive, which isn't necessarily your strongest property when depressed. This may appear later on, but the first thing to grab a hold of is acceptance. You'll have to start to accept choosing something to do. Ideally something simple and manageable. Doesn't actually have to be aesthetic or artful at all. Could just as well be tapping your fingers on cans, writing your name different ways each time 10 times, reading up on birds, practicing knots, etc. Eventually, though, your creativity might start to kick in, and that's going to be a potential turning point in your life. Because, even if your creativity isn't of aesthetic nature, your creativity is going to be the main fuel finding actual meaning in your life. You might just get the brilliant idea of making your own bird taxonomy, inventing your own knots or the most unnecessary ones possible, the quickest or most complex way to write your name, etc. Remember, creativity isn't about being artful, necessarily, but rather it's about finding ways to tackle your problems, your way. Your main problem is that you might not sense much purpose in anything. Well, then make your name look purposeful. How is that even done? Map out the purposes of different birds, make a chart of proposed knots for various tasks. Are there any ways you can tie your shoes with one hand? Can you make some sort of carry hook from a piece of rope for sharp grocery bags when you're buying food?
Number 2.
Commenter. Elevator stuff. The star symbol on the elevator panel indicates the floor that is the most direct route to outside. Person B. Also, if people are stuck in a lift, do not force the doors open to release them yourselves. Even if the lift is at landing, the lift can drop a significant amount and lead to major injuries. Source: Lift Tech. When moving into / out of a building with lifts, contact the strata manager and request priority key and curtains. This will give you the ability to take over a lift, and the curtains will save you horrendous fees to fix damage. Person C. And in the highly unlikely event that an elevator catastrophically fails and might fall to the bottom of the shaft, lay flat on the floor. Also, in the US, per the ADA, the shut door button on elevators that still have them is legally required to be non-functional and has been since the 90s. 2 dings/beeps/tones equals going down, 1 equals up. Not really survival oriented, but people mashing that button instead of being patient drives me up the effing wall.
Number 3.
Commenter. Every part of a dandelion, from the flower to the stem to the root, is edible. Person B. Our yard is full of greater plantain, a weed to anyone else, gift from God if you're surviving. You can eat it, or if you've got a cut you can use it as a poultice to keep the wound from becoming infected. Person C. Wild foods have been stigmatized for so long that people don't know what is what. Dandelions are bitter, which is quite often a sign of toxicity, so it'd be natural to think they are toxic. There are a surprising number of things that you can eat in your local area, probably even your lawn. Broadleaf plantains, creeping Charlie, pickerelweed, red clover, cattails, hell. Even milk thistle and bull thistle, which look like they want to stab you to death, have edible portions.
Number 4.
Commenter. If you are ever involved in gunfire or a shooting of any sort, a sharp cracking sound means the gunfire is aimed at you. A deep thumping noise means the gunfire is aimed away from you. Person B. Can confirm, and your first thought is who the F is lighting fireworks? Even if you know the sound of gunshots very well, the first thought is never, oh shit, someone is firing a gun at me. It takes a few full seconds to realize what is happening, and by then the shooter has already exhausted a magazine and is likely reloading the next one. Your body and mind will always turn toward the attention. Make a note of that direction and then run the opposite way. Ideally, know your nearest exits at all times, because large events and festivals are often fenced in. If you get 20 people to push a fence over, it's really easy to do so. Just yell, "Push the F fence." Stampeding people running for their lives is a nearly unstoppable force. Source: was in the Gilroy Garlic Festival shooting. Person C. To add, bullets passing by you make a zipping sound. They don't sound like angry hornets, which, unless the shooter is close, you will hear before you hear the gunshot itself.
Number 5.
Commenter. If you ever fall off a ship/ferry at sea and are lucky enough to be spotted, don't try to swim your way to safety. The more you try to swim, the lesser the chances of survival. Just try to keep afloat and conserve energy and body heat, while the rescue team do what they're supposed to. Unless you are in hypothermic waters, the best bet is always to stay afloat without trying to swim somewhere. This information about falling overboard, hypothermia and conditions, survival at sea, etc. are based on my own experience of 12 years sailing on merchant ships. Person B. If you aren't sure how long it will take for someone to get back to you, you can make a flotation device out of your pants. Tie the legs together, then splash bubbles into the waist to fill the legs with air. The wet pants will keep the air in so you can float easier. You may need to occasionally refill the air as it will slowly leak, but doing that every once in a while is better than just trying to float on your own or treading water. Person C. I've done a bunch of marine survival courses, and we were taught to float in the fetal position to retain body heat the best. We were shown the stats, and the length of time a person can survive floating in the fetal position versus swimming was monumental.
Number 6.
Commenter. Anything standing its ground and being loud just wants you to leave. If you don't, they will attack. When they are relatively quiet, they have already decided to attack. This goes for humans too. Person B. I should add that for many African animals, the best action is to simply stand still until the animal finishes its tantrum and leaves of its own accord. I say this as someone who has been stormed by elephants many times. If I had started to move out of the way too early, I would have been trampled. There is one exception: hippos are evil. And they don't even have the decency to eat you after smooshing you all over the ground.
Number 7.
If you are stuck with canned food but no can opener, flip the can upside down and rub it back and forth on asphalt or concrete. While a can opener cuts through the lid, the retaining ring holding the lid on is actually quite thin and can be abraded in 30 seconds or less. Don't starve to death next to a flat of alphagetti in your bunker.
Number 8.
Commenter. Lead the pack if scared of snakes. You'll disturb them, but the person behind you is more likely to get bitten. Person B. Mountain biker from southern Arizona here. In the summer, we trail ride at night to avoid the heat. When on single track, whoever is behind the guy in front is in snakebite position. We've all at one time or another had to bunny hop a rattlesnake.
Number 9.
Check every inch of your shoes. I was in Central America, checking my shoes. I thought very well. I had just taken them out of a bag cinched up, backwards into another bag cinched up, in a plastic bag tied up. Put my shoes on, I felt nothing weird. Took a couple steps, felt something in the heel of my shoe kinda drop. Took my shoe off and shook out a scorpion. I was lucky and had killed it with my heel putting them on. I learned that keeping them in bags was the worst thing I could do. From Canada, no scorpions here. From then on, I store my shoes in the open, upside down, and thoroughly check the heel. Best guess is it was hiding in one of the grooves in the heel and I missed it.
Number 10.
Commenter. If you're about to pass out from being exposed to heat, pour cold water on your forearms. Ice works even better. This is an old farmer trick. You will feel the effects immediately. You will stop being dizzy and feel better almost immediately. Person B. I've also used this to cool down or warm up in general. Cold in the office but forgot your coat. Take a bathroom break and run warm water over your wrists. You'll be toasty warm in about 2 minutes. Person C. If you are nervous sweating, go to the restroom and just stick your hands under the cold water, letting the water hit the inside of your wrists. That sensitive spot is the key and you will stop sweating almost instantly. Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.